Today we'll take you through the story of David versus Goliath. We will show you both camps, the Philistines and the Israelites camp, and what it probably would have been like for them during the times of leading up to the iconic battle of David versus Goliath. For weeks I've been studying the Hebrew and English text of 1 Samuel chapter 17 to find Shaaraim, the Israelites camp. And after lots of hard work and coming out here and finding it beforehand, I'm 100% sure we found it. So join us in this fascinating journey back into one of the world's most iconic battles of David versus Goliath. Wow, Ola, look at this. And wow, look at this, Ola, another gate, the second gate. Also, 4 chambers, just like they always build. So let's start this video off right here at the beginning of the story, right here at Shocha, where the Philistines made their camp. In 1 Samuel 17, verse 1, it says, "Now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle and were gathered together at Shocha." Our last video we put out, the city of Gath, which was the home of Goliath and 4 other giants, is also on the valley of Elah, which we're at right now. And it's not only, but more than about a 4.5 hour hike from here by foot, if you're not a giant, for us regular sized people, on this side of the valley, southwest from here. If you remember, the city of Gath, the city gates were right on the valley of Elah, on the river where it spoke in the Bible, where the river of Elah would pass right by the gates. The gates where David acted like a madman, scratching at the walls of the gates and drooling on his beard. Now you could only imagine the mindset of the Israelites and the Philistines on either side of this valley looking down, planning their battles. The way you can clearly see down from both sides into the valley, both hills, both camps, takes away any element of surprise any attacking army could have. Any army that would take the first attacking position would most likely be the losing army in a situation like this. As the attacking army would have started their way down the mountain, their side of the valley, down into the to go and cross the Eli River, the defending army would have their choice of picking either or, standing on their high ground, waiting for that army to come and take them off as they come up, or take them off, come down to the riverside and take them off coming out of the river, because that puts the attacking army also at a disadvantage. In 1 Samuel 17:16 it says, "And the Philistine drew near morning and evening and presented himself 40 days." Once we actually stand here and look at this place where it all happened, we understand why they waited 40 days. Like we said, the attacking army would have the major disadvantage. So now we understand why they chose that one man would represent each side, and that would be the deciding battle of this conflict. This place on top of this mountain was used by the Philistines to make camp. You can still see there's a lot of excavations left to be done here, because there's not much shown, but what is shown shows that there's a lot more under the surface.
Why don't I just sit here? That's my new chair. Oh, look, I think it's too big. What do you think it was, Joel? Maybe it's a giant seat or something? Seat for giants? Well, it's too big for me.
One thing you can see, it was a large place with cisterns and fortified walls, allowing for a long stay of an attacking army to stay here. This area is also full of wildlife and would have had ample amounts of food for both armies to also be able to stay for a long time. In 1 Samuel 17:3 it says, "And the Philistines stood on a mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them." So here I am on a mountain on one side, and now here I am on a mountain on the other side, and there is a valley in between. Now let's go on a short road trip and find the Israelite camp. Well, first of all, I forgot to wear my hat. It was awful hot out there. I researched this biblical event a lot, and reading both Hebrew and English texts. The Hebrew took me some time because my native tongue is English. I do know Hebrew, but not biblical Hebrew, but I was reading it quite a bit. I found some interesting things, to say the least. First of all, we found the Israelite camp. Maybe I should try to build the suspense up and act like we didn't for a while and then poof, and then show it. But I'm not good at playing those kind of games. We did find it. When we first rolled up on this place, I was sure this was not the Israelite camp, seeing how well excavated it was, and you could tell people really did a lot of work there. So I was sure it would have been documented and we would have known about it. Then I took the time to figure out what this place was. I realized that this place was not named as anything. At the entrance here, there's a sign that says Elah Valley National Park. First of all, we're on top of a mountain. We're not down in the valley. At best, it could be called the Elah Valley Lookout Point. Then as we climbed up, I realized that everything just lined up perfectly. This has happened to me a few times in our travel videos. When I can't find something by directions, just looking around what we have readily available to us today, I just go back to the scriptures and I find it every time. If you're looking for something and it doesn't line up perfectly with the word, then you can be sure you're in the wrong place. First of all, let's look at 1 Samuel 17:52. And the men of Israel and the men of Judah arose and shouted and pursued the Philistines until thou came to the valley and to the gates of Ekron. And the wounded of the Philistines fell down by the way of Shaaraim, even unto Gath and Ekron. Now, when I read this chapter in the Hebrew text, I came across some interesting points. First, Shaaraim in Hebrew means two gates, not plural, but exactly two gates. Shaaraim is two gates, Shaaraim is gates, plural. Another thing I noticed that in the Hebrew text, the way Shaaraim was used was not necessarily the name of the city, but just a way of explaining what the city was or what the city had. After reading 1 Chronicles 4:31, you know that Shaaraim is actually the name of the city. But in the story here, it was used more as a description in the Hebrew text. When the Israelites drove the Philistines back to Ekron, in the Hebrew text it says they drove them through the two gates, meaning through the city. When I read that, it didn't make any sense until I stood right here and looked at it. If you stand right here, right behind me, you can see where the Philistines army stood, which was right behind me in this frame. And you can see it comes right straight through the first gate, through the city. The second gate in Ekron is right that way. It's a straight shot. There's no other way to walk from there to Ekron other than right straight through here, through the two gates. Now, if you've been watching our travel videos much at all, you'll notice that all the cities we go to and all the tales, all the Israelite cities have only one big gate. That's not to say they didn't have tunnels and other ways to get in and out of the walls from other sides, meaning they wouldn't have only one way in and out, but they only had one big gate with the four chambers. And the four chambers, we also know, we always see the Israelites have four chambers in the main big gates anytime before King Solomon. After King Solomon, he changed it to 6 chambers. So that's how you can always tell a quick know of what time period you're looking at in an Israelite city when you look at the gates. Does it have 4 chambers, 2 on each side, or 6, 3 on each side? I guess Solomon thought, maybe I'll just be a little bit better than Daddy, and I'll add 2 more. Wow, look at this. Here's a gate right here. Here's the 4 chambers, as they always had. And wow, look at this, Ola, another gate, the second gate. Also, 4 chambers. Just like they always build. As you can see here, it's got the chambers on both sides, just like we was talking about before the time of Solomon, because there's only 2 on each side. So Solomon did 3 on each side.
Yeah, it's just a little piece that we found it here. It's all continues there and there, all over, all around. Shh, don't tell nobody.
Look how big this place is, Ola.
It's amazing.
And this is only part of it.
Yeah, yeah. And just think about it. King David were here, some were here. It probably was a wall of somebody's room. I don't know, but you know, I really don't understand what's going on here, because if it was for me, I don't want to have this piece of stone, let's say. I'll show it to you. Wait, I have to go there. This time I put some comfortable shoes. This thing.
There's 4 of them.
Yeah. It's like a room, and then you have this, what it was. Maybe it was a column, you say, that supported the something. And you see, they have a stone here, 2, 3, 4, with the hole inside. Look at those stones. It's a hole made by man, for sure. You can see it's clearly made by hand. I don't know what it was. It's amazing. And look at this thing. It was a tub, or maybe they held water. I don't know. But this is amazing.
I could only imagine right here, Saul using this place. This is right by the north, right by the second gate on the north side, meaning the other side of the valley. No danger here. I bet Saul sat here and contemplated his strategies. Or maybe this is where David had a conversation with his 3 brothers after he came back from his father. It is a beautiful place. So as you can clearly see, this city stands out from all the other cities we've been to, all the other old ancient Israelite cities. This city is the only one that has 2 big 4-chambered gates. If you were standing here, you could really see, I'll try to show you in the videos, but how this 2 gates really truly line up perfectly in a straight line between where the Philistine army stood and Ekron. Just like the passage says in 1 Samuel chapter 17, when they drove them through the 2 gates, or in English, through Shaaraim, meaning 2 gates. Well, after coming here and doing the research and looking at and finding this place, I can tell you for 100% without a shadow of a doubt, we are standing in Shaaraim, the Israeli camp from the iconic battle of David versus Goliath. And as we all know, it all started for David right here. This is where his whole story started. The faith that the young shepherd named David had in the Lord is absolutely inspiring to us all. Something a lot of people look over very easily. When David went down to the battle from where we're standing, when he went down to battle Goliath, he went down to meet 2 men, Goliath and another man who was holding the shield. 1 Samuel 17 verses 7 and 41, it speaks of a 3rd man that walks in front of Goliath bearing his shield. I can't help but make the connections that the large funded organizations with all the archaeologists and research teams have not yet put 2 and 2 together and realized this is the 2-gated city from the Bible. Instead, little old me come out here and connected the gates, pun intended, and was able to figure it out. Don't forget to join us on thegoldenreport.com, and until next time, God bless.